Hey everybody, welcome to week 5 in our Shiloh University Survey of Church History, the Rule of Rome. Well, I'll say right off, this is a kind of a tough chapter because there's a lot of reading, and I'm sorry about that, but that's kind of what happens in a church history class is we read. But we're looking at the 14th century, the 1300s, when the Roman Church reached its peak of power, and it used, and frankly, it misused that power, ultimately sowing the seeds of its own decline that we'll look at next week as we look at the precursors to the Protestant Reformation. And we're looking at how under Gregory, the papacy really not only rose to power in a new way, truly they married the state. The church and the state kind of became bedfellows, if you will. And so we now have the protector of the church, the Holy Roman Emperor. And this person, literally his position was not just to expand his own kingdom, but also to protect the church and the church's kingdom. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the Crusades, which is frankly a terrible time in church history. But then we'll look at scholasticism and people like St. Thomas Aquinas, who was one of the heroes of that time, quite honestly. And as we look at it, it can get a little overwhelming, and you can even wonder, was God even there? You know, when you look at Charlemagne and how he tried to establish Christendom rather than help spread the gospel of Jesus. And we're looking at how the Pope participated with the Crusades and their effort to really just expand their own kingdoms. And so what we're looking at is in some ways the danger of the church not being unique, but the church really being the same as the world. The church being the same as political power, and some of the concerns and dangers of that. And even in our own current world, we need to re-examine some of those issues, don't we? And look at them even in the light of current events. So we're going to be looking at that. There's review questions and study questions. And predominantly what we're looking at is how Gregory and the papacy seem to lose sight of the real mission of the church. And sadly, they saw the church as a kingdom of this world, even though we're reminded of the passage, you know, the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdom of our Lord. We don't try to marry the kingdoms of this world. Our kingdom is not of this world, Jesus said. And in the eschaton, in the final coming of Christ, he will make all things right. But until then, there is necessarily a tension, isn't there, between the kingdoms of this world and the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ. So let's jump on in there. Let's look at the way in which the political climate and imperialism really affected the church. And let's continue to look for those little threads of godly people, men and women who loved Jesus and wanted to follow the tenets of the gospel, because they exist. Their story may not be as loud and as recognized by monuments and statues around Europe, but their impact nonetheless is why we're here today in the way that we are and serving our Lord. So I'll see you guys in the discussion threads, and let's have a great week.